Lord.
And when you go through something, you know you got a reason to.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Amen. That's right.
Yes, Lord. Yes,
Thank you,
God.
Jesus.
Yes, God.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, God.
Let's go quickly to Matthew.
Amen.
No, I'm sorry. Take that back. Let's go to Luke.
Amen.
Luke, the 8th chapter.
Amen.
Luke, the 8th chapter. And we're going to start at verse number 22. Luke, the 8th chapter,
Amen.
starting at verse number 22. Luke, the 8th chapter, starting at verse number 22, and it reads as follows. Now it came to pass on a certain day that he went into a ship with his disciples. And he said unto them, let us go over unto the other side of the lake. And they launched forth. But as they sailed, he fell asleep. And there came down a storm of wind on the lake. And they were filled with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the sea, of the water. And they ceased, and there was calm.
Yes, Lord.
And he said unto them, where is your faith?
That's right.
Come on.
Hallelujah. That's right.
And they, being afraid, wondered, saying to one another, what manner of man is this?
Yes, yes.
For he commanded even the wind
Yes, that's right.
and the water,
Yes, Lord.
and they obey him.
Yes.
What manner of man is this? For he commanded even the winds and the water, and they obey him. I want to speak real quick from the subject text. The other side of your storm.
Wow. Amen.
Amen.
The
Amen.
other side
Amen.
of your
Yes, Lord.
storm.
Yes, Lord.
Amen. Amen.
Awesome. Amen.
At least for the past several days, if not longer, we've been hearing about storms
That's right.
in the news. We've been hearing about the raging winds and the pouring rain and all these things transpiring on the East Coast, and even a larger storm that is off the coast of Asia that is barreling down. The people are in a holding pattern as the storm continues to rage and beat upon their homes and their lives. And people often wonder, how could rain and water be so destructive? How can something that is as natural as the rain that is from heaven take something that is simple as the sea and make it so destructive by the blowing of the wind?
That's right.
It can be fascinating, but it can be troubling.
Amen.
But one of the things we have to understand that storms are just a part of life.
That's right. That's it.
And no matter where you are,
Yes.
you're going to face some kind of storm.
Amen. That's right.
And how you handle that storm
Amen.
is going to determine how you come out of
Yes,
the
Lord.
storm.
Amen.
Here in our text, we discover that Jesus and his disciples were about to encounter such a storm. I thought it rather interesting in this particular set of scripture that was recorded by Luke, Mark, and Matthew, that it came off of Jesus performing a miracle.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
What's interesting is that even after he performed a miracle, that he has to question the faith of those who knew him supposedly
That's right.
the best.
That's
Right.
Say it.
Isn't it funny that even when we go through some things that we know God has brought us through before,
Yeah.
that we still find ourselves questioning
That's right.
the validity of our God.
Huh.
The same God that brought you through before
Right.
can bring you through now.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
But here they encountered a storm. The Bible records it that Jesus says to them, let's cross over
Yeah.
to the other side.
Yeah.
This didn't come from one of his disciples, but it was Jesus who said, let us cross over to the other side. This wasn't somebody who was in the crowd, but it was yet Jesus who said, let us cross over to the other side. What I'm trying to get you to understand that it was no other person other than Jesus that said, let us cross over to the other side. The Bible records that God's word shall not return void, but shall accomplish exactly what it is set out to do. Jesus said, let us cross over to the other side, which simply would give me an understanding that no matter what I encounter on the in-between time, that I shall make it to the other side. But I digress because the text records a story. And the story says that as they launched out, that Jesus slept. The first thing we have to understand is you have to know that the storm that you are in, that you're coming out of.
That's right.
Because if you go in defeated already, then there is really no need for you to go in. Because you've already determined that you can't make it out.
Amen.
But what they have to understand is that the very person who told them they were going to make it to the other side was with them. It doesn't matter if he had taken a nap. It doesn't matter whether he had gone down below deck. He had already spoken that they would make it to the other side. Sometimes you got to learn how to convince yourself that God is true in everything that he has said and everything that he's. You have to learn how to apply your faith.
Amen. That's right.
That it may be able to be in a position that it benefits you and it doesn't fall by the wayside.
Amen.
Here we find that he says to them that they're going to the other side.
Yes.
But before they go to the other side, Jesus decides that he must go below.
Amen.
Hmm.
Amen.
He must separate himself from what is about to transpire,
Amen. Amen.
leaving the disciples up top on the deck. And he retreats back to find some rest, in which the Bible hardly ever records that Jesus rested.
That's right. That's right.
But even when he rests,
Yes.
he is still yet in control. You know how sometimes we put things in the wrong context.
Amen.
That even though God may have rested, it never means that we was ever out of his control. Because he has a way of resting but still keeping us in the palm of his hand. But see, that's where the disciples lost their understanding of who they was riding with. Sometimes you need to be reminded that God is still in control even when you don't see him above. That he may be below working things out, or he may be below resting, but he still has his hands on the pulse of whatever we are going through. There's never nothing too big for our God, and there is never anything out of his control. So even if you can't see him, he still is orchestrating it all.
Yes, he is.
The Bible says that he rested.
Yes, he did.
And notice in the text, the Bible records that there was a storm that came upon the lake. And it says that it was the wind or a windstorm. Oftentimes we have to understand that we make storms out to be bigger than what they are.
Come on.
It didn't say it was wind and rain. It didn't say it was wind, rain, and a storm surge. It didn't say it was wind, rain, storm surge, and a tornado. It didn't say none of those things. It said it was just the wind. Sometimes you got to put stuff in perspective, and we make things out to be bigger than what they are, and we need to learn how to apply things in the perspective of our God, and there is nothing too big for our God. So even if the storm does come, we got somebody who is with us who can speak peace to the storm and cause the storm to diminish. And what it should not even eclipse the fact that our faith is still in the midst.
Yes, amen.
We have to understand that if he says we are going to the other side, that we shall make it.
Amen.
Second, we have to understand is don't allow your faith to be a casualty of the storm. You know how when things start to get rough, our faith is the first things that start to wane. It's the first things that starts to diminish. If you've been looking at the news reports, if you've been looking at the things that have been transpiring through the storm of Florence, you've seen how they talked about the storm surge, and they've been on the beaches of North Carolina and South Carolina, and there's one thing they are talking about that is going to cause a problem, and it is called erosion. Erosion comes in and it diminishes what we consider the land based on the storm surge. It comes in so rough, it comes in so great that it washes away the land that has been placed there as a buffer. So you may have had several thousand feet of sand that was there before the storm. But now, because of the storm surge and because of the erosion, it has now depleted that sand or that barrier or that natural landmass to a point where now it's troubling people because what was there before is not there now. That's how the enemy tries to do with your faith. He tries to come up with you. He brings the hardest troubles. He comes with the greatest trials trying to erode your faith. And if you're not careful enough, you'll let him diminish your faith and don't let and allow yourself to start to question whether or not you're going to make it out of the storm because of what appears to be your faith diminishing or your faith going away. But you have to keep trusting God even in the midst of the storm to know that even though I may see things going away, that I know God can replace what I'm seeing that is going away.
Amen. Amen.
The Bible says that they were taking on water. Didn't say they were sinking.
That's right.
It says that the wind was blowing. It says that the waves were crashing up against the ship, and the ship began to take on water, but it did not say they were sinking. The Bible says that as the disciples rushed down to wake up Jesus, they told him that we are in jeopardy. That we are in danger, that we are about to die. Because this wind and the wave that it is conjuring up is about to overtake us. We are about to succumb to this storm that we are in. Notice when Jesus woke up, he didn't ask any questions. He immediately rose and stepped up on deck and began to speak to the trouble that they were causing or that was being caused by the storm that they were in. And then he turns around and he speaks to his disciples. The Bible records that he rebuked the wind. Sometimes you got to know how to use your power and your authority. You got to learn how to speak to your storm. You got to learn how to tell the enemy to go back into his place. You got to know how to stand on the promise and the principles of God in spite of what your eyes may see. But you got to learn how to stand firm on the promise of God and speak a life into what you thought was a dead situation, because God still has the final say in whatever storm that you are in.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Jesus speaks to the storm.
Yes.
And even when the storm is raging,
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Lord.
he finds a way
Thank you, Lord.
to teach us.
Yes, He does. Amen.
The Bible says that the disciples were afraid.
Yes, they were.
Their fear had overtaken them.
That's right.
The disciples who had just seen him perform miracle after miracle
Say it. Say it.
were fearful
Lord, I thank
because of the wind.
you.
What is keeping you from getting to your other side?
Say
Is
it.
it your fear? Because it's really not the storm.
Amen.
Because if you trust God is with you, then the storm is not what's going to take you out.
That's right.
It's your fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say it.
It's your fear that what you are seeing, what you are hearing, is not going to allow you to find the peace that you're looking for. But you don't need peace when you got peace with you in the name of Jesus.
Yes.
That you have to understand that he has the peace that surpasses all understanding, and you don't have to understand why you are in the midst of the storm. You only have to understand is that you have God with you, and you're going to make it to the other side. It doesn't matter what statistics say. It doesn't matter about what other folks around you say. It doesn't matter even what your family say. What matters is that whether or not you believe that you have God with you, and because you got God with you, you don't get to where he needs you to get. That it doesn't matter what kind of storm comes, what kind of rain falls, what kind of water tries to take you out. If you got God with you, he is still more than anything that can take you out.
Amen. That's right. Say it. Thank you, Lord.
The disciples erred in the fact that they were fearful even though they had Jesus with them.
Yes.
And he tells them, where is your faith?
Say it.
We just got in the ship. We just got out on the lake. They weren't even in open seas.
That's right.
They were on the lake,
That's right.
which means they could see the other side.
Yes. Say it. Amen.
And they would be able to see how far the other side was. So even though, or even if, for that matter, they had fear that they were lost at sea, it wouldn't be long for them to determine that we're not really lost when we can see the other side that he said we were going to make it to. See, sometimes if you just look to the hills from which cometh your help, and you know your help coming from the Lord, that you can see where you're going to get to your destination. Sometimes if you just open up not your natural eyes, but your spiritual eyes, and get the understanding that God is with you, that it doesn't matter what you're seeing with your natural eyes, that God is going to make sure that you reach your destination, then maybe your fear wouldn't overtake you, maybe your doubt wouldn't consume you, maybe your lack of understanding wouldn't lead you astray, but maybe if you just believe God enough to know that he put you on this course not for your demise, but for your development, and that you're getting to this point in your life that he is not trying to tear down your faith, but he is trying to build up your faith. Even though it looks like the storm is greater than anything you've ever faced, you have to know that he will never put more on you than you can bear. That he will even allow you a way of escape, that even though it looks like there is no way out, there's still a way out. And who's the way out? He's riding with you in the midst of the storm.
Hallelujah. Yes, Lord. Thank you,
I
Lord.
don't care how many times you go through,
That's right. That's right.
God can still bring you out.
Yes, it can.
Amen.
I don't care how big it looks in your own eyes. There is still nothing too big for our God.
Amen.
The other side of your storm is simply this, that it was over with before it started.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what do you mean? I'm telling you, it was over with before it started. It was over with from this perspective. You knew that there was going to be a storm, but God already told you was going to make it to the other side.
Yes, Lord.
So it was over with. You just had to deal with the consequences or whatever the process was for you to go through. That becomes the problem in this walk. If God has already told you how victorious you're going to be, it means that in order for you to pick up your plaque, you still got to go to the other side. It's not enough that you hear it, but you got to believe it and still go through it, because going through it solidifies the fact that you had no doubt that God was with you and that he could do exactly what he said he would do.
Amen.
Amen.
That's right. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I thank you.
We want the promise without the problems.
That's right. That's right.
But you have to understand that the promise and the problems go hand in hand.
That's right.
That there wouldn't be a promise if there wasn't a promise. And his promise is simply that he will make everything work out for your good. And if he already said that he's going to make it out work for your good, then it doesn't matter what bad you face, because God is going to turn it around. This storm didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but it meant that he needed to work more on his disciples' faith. And their faith wasn't where it should be. And what Jesus was trying to tell them, even if you don't see me, I'm still with you.
Amen.
That's right.
Say it. That's right.
Even if you don't hear my voice, I'm still with you. Because look, I'm the one that says go over to the other side.
That's right.
So I don't care what the storm tries to do, it will never accomplish what it is trying to do, because what I've already said is going to happen, is going to happen.
Yes. Yes. Amen. Amen.
Let the winds blow.
Yes.
Let the seas rage.
Yes.
Let the waters overflow. Because all it's going to do is make my testimony greater of when I come out of the storm that I just got in.
Yes.
Amen.
Say it.
Let them lie on you. Let them talk about you.
That's right.
Let them say what they got to say, because you're going to come out showing us pure gold. Let them talk about how you did this or how you did that. It really doesn't matter, because God has already spoken that you're coming out of this. You got to believe what God says, not what the world says. You got to believe what God is going to accomplish in your life, not what they're going to say you're not going to get in your life. You have to believe what God says concerning you and not what the world says concerning you. It only matters what God says concerning your life and not what other folks say about your life.
That's right. That's right.
Amen. That's right.
Let them talk. Let them lie.
That's right.
Let them manipulate. Let them try to orchestrate whatever. Let them try to do whatever they want to do, because I know my God can bring me through, because he's greater than anything that they would ever be able to bring me down. God will always lift me above the mess that is trying to keep me where other folks want me to stay, but the devil is a lie. I'm coming through not because I deserve it, it's because he's orchestrated my breakthrough for my destiny to be manifested.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Yes. Preach,
Amen.
Lord, today, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Folks get so caught up into what everybody else is trying to do to keep them down,
That's right.
instead of what God is trying to do to keep you up.
Oh,
Yes.
indeed. Say it. Amen.
Say that.
Let them pull.
That's right. That's right.
Let them tug.
Yes.
Let them try to do whatever they want to do to you.
That's right.
Because what's going to happen, they're going to mess around getting saved, because you in the hands of God. You let them try to hold on to you too long, they're going to mess around and get caught up in his hand himself. And when God gets a hold of them, you watch how their life transforms, and then they be coming to you asking for prayer, asking for scripture. How do you get this and how do you get that? How did your relationship with God change? It's because I never stopped doubting the fact that whatever y'all was trying to do to keep me down, that he wasn't going to try to do to keep me up.
Say it. Amen. Say it. Thank you, Lord.
The other side of your storm is filled with victory,
Yes, thank you, Lord. Hallelujah.
filled with promise,
Yes, Lord.
filled with
Thank you, Jesus.
destiny.
Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
If we could only grasp that one aspect of this scripture, is that what he spoke before they got on the boat
Amen. Amen.
was how things were going to end.
That's right.
Amen.
Oftentimes life doesn't go out or go the way we plan, but whatever he spoke
Yes.
to you
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
is what's going to come to pass.
Amen.
Amen.
He didn't tell you it was going to be easy.
No, he didn't.
He didn't tell you you wasn't going to have trouble.
That's right.
He didn't even tell you there weren't going to be any trials or tribulations.
That's right.
But he did tell you that the weapons would form, but they would not prosper.
That's right.
Amen.
Amen.
The weapon formed as they were trying to cross over,
Yes.
but it did not prosper.
Yes, say it, Pastor.
But their faith
Yes.
was a casualty
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
in the storm.
Thank you, Lord.
Don't lose your faith in the storm.
Thank you, Lord.
Don't lose sight of the fact that the enemy is trying to erode something that he doesn't have the ability to take away from you, which means you freely get it.
Amen.
Don't let fear seep into the mindsets or your heart,
Yes.
because it is the very thing that diminishes what God is trying to produce in you. It is the exact reason why God said he did not give us the spirit of fear.
Uh-huh.
Because the spirit of fear is what will counteract the faith of God.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Mm-mm-mm.
He says, look, you a little faith.
Yes, that's right.
And the thing that blew my mind is their response.
That's right.
They didn't question the fact that their faith had diminished.
That's right.
They started to say, what manner of a man
That's right.
is this
That's right.
that can speak
Yes.
to the wind and the water,
Hallelujah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-mm-mm.
and it obeys?
Yes.
What kind of man is
That's
this?
right. That's right.
He is the man that brought you through your storm.
Amen. That's right.
He is the man that will pick you up and turn you around. He is
Yes.
the man that will cause your faith
Uh-huh.
to be able to speak to a mountain and tell it to move. He is the man that will allow you to see your victory in the midst of what people thought was going to be your defeat. He is the man that can take the doctor's diagnosis and turn it around and heal you from the crown of your head to the soles of your foot. He is the man who will open up an opportunity when everybody tried to shut every door of opportunity in your life. He is the man who will take you down a dark path and bring you into the marvelous light when the enemy tries to take you out. He still is the one who protects you. He is the man that covers you from head to toe when the enemy is trying to snuff you out. He is the man that will restore your former and your latter. He is the man that will lift you out of the pit, who will take you out of the furnace. He is the man who will dry up your infirmity from a blood of affliction. He is a man that will turn the lame to be able to walk. He is the man who will turn the blind to be able to see. He is a man that will restore you
Yes. Yes.
Hallelujah.
in every way, shape,
Yes,
or form.
yes, Lord Jesus.
What manner of a man is he? He is the man that has given you back a life
Yes.
that you thought you lost.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
No matter what storm you have faced,
That's right.
no
Amen.
matter what storm you may be in,
Yes.
God still has you.
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
God is still protecting you.
Yes, He is. Thank you, Lord.
God is still seeing you through.
Thank you, Lord.
Whenever we have a storm,
Yes, Lord.
we look for things to cover us.
That's right.
When the storm is blowing rain, the winds are high,
Yes.
the wind chill is great.
Yes.
And we try to do anything we can to insulate us from such atmospheric issues. But when you look at the thing that we grab the most, we call it a umbrella, a parasol,
Amen.
Yeah.
which is another word of something that covers you
Amen.
from things that are trying to harm you or to protect you from the things that are surrounding you.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what God is to us.
Yes.
He is the very epitome of the thing that keeps us
Yes.
from hurt, harm, and danger.
Uh-huh.
When you are with the storm, whether he is with you, it doesn't matter where he's at.
Amen.
What matters is how and where you are applying him in the midst of the storm.
Yes.
Are you under the cleft of the mountain?
Yes.
Are you in the secret place of the Most High? Where are you applying him in your storm?
Amen.
And that's how you come through.
Amen.
It's by him.
That's
how you apply him. And based on those things will determine how long you stay in the storm, because he's already told you you're coming out.
Thank you, Lord.
Amen.
It makes no sense to stay in a storm longer than you have to. And
God.
God has already told you
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
coming through. You just got to go with the flow and let God do exactly what he said. Don't try to go back to the side you just left from.
Amen.
It don't make sense to try to go back to a place that God had already told you needed to leave.
Yes.
He told you that is not the place for you. That is not your destination. That is not your destiny. But your destiny and your destination is on the other side. Just keep going where I'm trying to send
Yeah.
you. Stop trying to paddle back to the other side. Stop trying to deviate from the course of plan, the course of action. Stop trying to do all those things and just let God navigate you. You don't have to know the plan. Just know that you got the one who's orchestrating the plan with you.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
The other side of your storm is full with victory.
Yes, it is. Thank you,
And you
Lord.
just have to believe it
Thank you, Lord.
to know what God has done for you. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Let us give God a hand clap of praise.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Instructions.
Hallelujah.